And we are back with episode 8. And we're going to jump straight into it with the first segment, Taste of Content, where specifically, man, the SNL 50th anniversary, it was a fun watch for the most part because they touched kind of like all bases a little bit. And there's 50-50. I feel like, for opinions, good or bad, whenever it comes to half of them are like the industry people, that a lot of them are either just like jealous that they didn't get invited, or they just, there's just like a common joke that SNL isn't funny, or that, so like they're following with that theme. And then the other side is like the audience that watched it and like consumed it just live. They loved it because they were like, "Oh, this is crazy." It was a throwback. They had all the characters. They did. It was crazy. A like an It wasn't an honorable mentions. It was like a memorial for all the times that they fucked up, and there were some of them in there that were for sure questionable. Like a dude was damn near naked in a tub next to a kid, also damn near naked, and there's a few jokes where I was like, "That was all right. Now what you doing?" But then there was also the times where they got racy and sexist, and they called him out. It was very tongue in cheek, though. It was very like, "Oh yeah, we're sorry. We won't do this again." It's more like a "if we could, we would" type of vibe. Watching it was just like, this gonna might sound fucked up because I don't know, but I felt like I was just watching a normal SNL episode while I was watching that. For me specifically, because I didn't grow up watching SNL, so I don't have the appreciation for it of like nostalgic purposes of like all these characters hit 10 times harder because we're seeing, oh my gosh, I haven't seen this character in years. Because like all the characters that I would have seen, I've seen within the last few years just on YouTube, like just naturally researching them. So I'm not the type of guy that is on the fuck SNL train because it's just not funny. Like I can appreciate comedy if it's like just like good comedy, you know what I'm saying? So, for example, me and Brandon went to see a movie, and it came out like not too long ago, but it was about the first night SNL went live. I can't remember who was the actors that were in it, but it was a good movie. That was what I watched. There was a documentary on SNL. I think it was on like Netflix or something, but I watched that. So I'm not like an SNL hater, but the comedy is very one-laned, I will say. And I wrote this down because I'm trying to figure this out. I looked it up, nothing. I think it either all got swept under the rug or people are scared to say something. I don't know what. I was watching Nate Land and Nate Bargatze. He recently has become a part of the SNL cast pretty much, where like he's hosted it a few times. He is a character on it. He has character staples like the George Washington character. He was on the most recent episode of Nate Land, and this is the most recent one they made after the 50th anniversary. It was like he just got back from it, is what they were saying, and he was talking about a story where Tom Hanks was, I don't know if, because he did like I think he did two different sketches. I feel like he was saying that Chevy Chase did this during Tom Hanks' MAGA hat set, where because he has like a MAGA hat character, so I think he is insinuating it was during that bit. But Nate said that Chevy Chase stood up and yelled something, and well, I guess not even stood up. I guess he was standing, but he just yelled something from the back and interrupted Tom Hanks. And then later that day, I saw some articles saying Tom Hanks stormed out of SNL, but I didn't read it, and I didn't believe that because I was like, I don't know about all that. But because I feel like if he stormed out of the SNL thing, I would have seen actual like stories about him storming out of the building. Like fuck that. So I think they were just trying to use some sort of clickbait. But I don't think Nate would go on his podcast and then just lie about a story where Chevy Chase yelled something during Tom Hanks' MAGA bit and lying about it. I don't think that's not something to ruin your credibility over, especially not with SNL that he's like excited to be a part of. So I'll take that with the intention of him saying what he saw with his own in his own perspective. I do want to know what he said though. He didn't say what he said. No articles have written anything about it. I went to Grok to because it can read pretty much all of Twitter. It can be like, oh, can you tell me something about this topic? And it'll search Twitter for those topics and be like, oh yeah, let's see, this person said this. Now it'll also search the internet, but if you're trying to find like reporter type shit, it'll search for tweets. But I couldn't find anything. I would love to figure out what he said though, because that had to have been something like childish for SNL to cut it out completely and not have any like type of media sources talk about it or anything. Because it was a shit ton of famous people in the room. The people that were there, it was like, what? That that is insane. And I'm not even just talking about the alumni cast that were there. The people that were just in the audience, it was insane. But hey, that's SNL. They're a staple now. Them blurring out the blackface made me giggle a little bit. I will say though, that made me giggle. I was like, damn, y'all think you're doing something here. Okay. So we're gonna go from taste of content straight to Rambletone because your boy is about to yap. About myself though. And I posted on my spam account yesterday and I was like, yeah, I pretty much said that my open book, because I am an open book, but it's only to people that ask certain questions. I'm not just going to people and just being like, hey, this is my story. I'm not like spewing my life to random people as soon as I meet them. But if I know somebody and they ask me a question, I'll tell them. I don't care. But nowadays, I'm 24. I don't go out to the bars because my version of going out to the bars is the comedy club. Every weekend, I go to a place that sells alcohol and I deal with drunk people. And I usually have a drink at the end of the night. I don't get like hammered, but I usually have at least like one drink. So there is some alcohol involved. So damn near that is my version of like going out to the bar. And it's kind of sad, but at the same time, I'm not a big drinker. And I'm not a big going to the bars guy. That just sounds very, I don't know. It just sounds like a sad night to me. Now at the comedy club, you get laughs. You deal with the drunk people as well, which that's not necessarily a benefit, but it's part of what makes it feel like the bar vibes. But since I don't go out as much and I'm usually just at work, I don't have that open book vibes being like you know what I'm saying? I'm not talking about myself to people. I don't know, half as much. I realized I was like, oh shit, it's all coming out here on the podcast. And like I'm watching the episode as I edit it and I'm like, damn, yeah, I'm putting a lot out here. I also have nothing to hide though, you know what I'm saying? Like it doesn't I'm not gonna say something and then later on be like, ah shit, I shouldn't put that out. It's too late at that point. I just gotta accept it. Like that's part of having a podcast is just talking about your open life and just be like, yeah, man, you all can learn about all this information. I got nothing to hide, which also helps because like, thank God I don't have skeletons in my closet because I'd talk about everything. Everything would just be. I would literally talk about the skeleton in the closet right there. You know what I'm saying? It's wild making the podcast clips and then posting them on Instagram and then getting random people from my life and I appreciate it. It's lit, but it's crazy seeing all different spectrums of my life being like, "Oh yeah, let's support Drew and his podcast." It's wild to me. And it's crazy that you could just be watching this on like an Instagram clip right now, supporting the podcast and you know me from like school 7 years ago, Papa John's. It could be CTZ, Comedy Club. There's so many places, and it's like, man, it's cool. Like I said earlier, I appreciate it. It's just wild. But all of that yapping was said because I'm just basically saying that I'm an open book on the podcast now, explaining what I'm about to yap about. And it's kind of more of a complaint, which is gonna lead to a yap. But years ago, I downloaded on my phone Bumble and Tinder. And for a very long time, I stopped using them. And I just haven't, because I have an account on both of them. I just don't open them because I'm like, it's not worth it. It's a scam. Blah 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 blah. They want you to pay to meet somebody, and you can do that for free. And if you don't use an app for a certain amount of time, there's a little cloud with an arrow that goes down. This is on iPhones. That's like, hey man, you haven't opened this app in a while, so we offloaded it just to save you some gigabytes. If you click on it, you'll re-download it. And I don't get notifications from apps that are offloaded on my phone. Well, Bumble was offloaded, Tinder offloaded, so I stopped getting the notifications from them, and I was like, thank goodness. And it went for so long that I didn't even realize it, and I was like, oh, this is alright, bet. Didn't even think about I didn't get the constant relationship thought get put in my head from like a Tinder notification or something. So just chilling one day, I look at my phone. I got a Bumble notification. I was like, what the fuck? And it said, you got a match. And I was like, wait a second. And I looked at the app and it wasn't downloaded. I had to re-download it to open it. And I was like, what the fuck? How'd that notification slip through? I guess that night I was feeling like, I don't know if I was feeling some sort of lonely or what, but I downloaded it and I checked it. And it was a match. I didn't respond to her because I was like, I don't know about it. I also don't know what I was feeling whenever I swiped right. But I closed the app and I was like, okay, well, I'm just not going to touch it. It's crazy that it slipped through. Why did it? Maybe, I don't know. I'm just not going to do anything with it. So I let it set for, who knows, I don't know, a week, 2 weeks. And I was like, it's already downloaded. I might as well, like, get on. And as I got on Bumble again, I started to like look at swipe left or right. But this time it was different because I realized I was like, oh shit, I might be able to use Bumble now. Because the way I was using it was, and this might sound sad, I was using it the way it was intended to be used. Like I would, this is gonna sound so fucked up. I took the time to read all of the profile. The pictures I really didn't even care about because I was like, you can get a yes or no pretty quick if it's like, okay, yeah, I like to scroll right down. But dude, I was moderate for like a liberal or conservative. Moderate, I was more like, all right, that's the 100%. So I actually had the standards up. And buddy, let me tell you, I don't think I've ever been on Bumble or Tinder and used some sort of standards to be like, well, I've definitely used standards to be like, I'm not gonna date her. But like up until now, I've never looked at a woman's profile and swiped left because she like didn't want to have kids or she was agnostic. So it's just things that probably should have been up in the first place, standards wise, but they just for sure weren't. So it's wild going through. And I'm not gonna lie, I don't know if it's like me for like the shit I'm looking for and the shit I'm not trying to do, like going out to bars wise. The last like 4 or 5 girls I've matched with, I haven't started a conversation with any of them, but they've all been cause well one they gotta message me first because that's why I like Bumble because it's like I don't gotta start the first thing, but at the same time whenever they do start it, I gotta make the decision if I want to keep going or not. And this is why I don't like using Bumble because a lot of times I just don't want to start the conversation because then I'm like, fuck, I don't know if I really want to start this dedication of making a potential relationship and yada yada yada. Because you gotta be ready for that. And especially whenever they're all like 36 or like 29, 41. And I was like, yo, yo, yo. Did you see me at the comedy club and you're like, I recognize his face or something? Because these numbers are crazy, age-wise. Not what I was in, like intending, but I was like, okay, well, which is also probably why I didn't continue the conversation. Because the one that got me the notification to download it in the first place was the 36, and I was like, I don't even I don't remember swiping on a 36-year-old woman. She was the agnostic woman that wasn't trying to have kids. I was like, well, I don't know why I fucking, you know what I'm saying? I don't know why you swiped on you in the first place. So I'm kind of glad, but I don't even want to try and re-download Tinder. I feel like that will only lead to bad things, dude. I don't think I've ever had a date from Tinder end and then me walk away from it being like, damn, I want to do that, another one of those. That was fun. It was all like, damn, dude, that was not worth it. Why did I do that? And that says a lot, because, buddy, my standards, it's crazy. Once I actually realized what it takes to, like, have standards and be like, oh shit, these are my standards. I was like, oh yeah, your boy had none. I was like, hey, you gonna talk to me? We're gonna acknowledge each other, go get some food or something, hang out. And then, of course, like relationship stuff, you know what I'm saying? But then, other than that, support wise, none. I was like, what is that? Or, because really the first few that I just listed are kind of like this, like two just put together, which is just part of being in a relationship. It's a two-lane street. And before, I was okay with driving on a one-lane road if you get where I'm going. So I was like, all right, well, now that I have standards, I can actually use Bumble, fuck Tinder, but I can swipe right on people, and then I realized, damn, this is leading to me potentially starting a relationship with a grown ass woman, and that's something I feel like you have to strap in for. Starting a relationship, at least. That specifically. I don't think you gotta strap on for anything else. Well, do gotta strap on, but strap on certain stuff. You know what I'm saying? Not a seatbelt. Shit's crazy, dude. And this is also what it's like working at a comedy club, because it literally is a bunch of. I had to have told this story on the podcast. Had to have. But it's a bunch of older, and it's sometimes not older, but a range of women from my age to 53, and they just hit on me because I'm the youngest one at the comedy club. You know what I'm saying? And especially of the Cedars, and love Clay to death. But whenever we're standing next to each other, it's just noticeably like I don't know, they just feel inclined to flirt with me, and it happens often. Plus, in the fucking staff too. The staff does it as well, which doesn't help because the people probably see the staff do it and they're like, "Oh shit, we could pile on." But this ramble tone took a turn for I did not know it was gonna take. This could, I guess, kind of be like I actually remembered, but I'm also pretty sure I've told this maybe on if this happened in season 1 of the podcast, or I don't know. This is for the newer people that started watching, if I've already said this story before. Now keep in mind, I didn't know she had a boyfriend, and that's a crazy way to start the story. But I was doing my job as I normally do. I'm the door guy, and then while the show's going, I'm the security, basically, of police in the room to make sure, hey, look, you can't talk while the show's going, you're interrupting the show around other people, blah, 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 blah. And I was just standing there watching the show. There was a girl in the front row. The comedian started talking to her, and she was basically saying, if you get what I'm hinting at, she was ready. And I was looking at it as like, damn, I don't know what the fuck this comedy club is about to turn to, but this is getting a little weird. And I think it was Jessica Kirsten was the comedian. I might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure it was her. which is she's a lesbian, so she was probably hitting on her too, like making her feel like she was all attractive and stuff, which probably got her even more on go. And I don't understand what the vibes were, and I was like, man, I'm kind of tuning out. So I was like, I'm going to the bathroom. I go to the bathroom if I need a second to, this is behind the scenes. I go to the bathroom if I need a second to debrief and be like, all right, I need to stop watching a room full of drunk people just laugh at either something that isn't funny or it's just getting old. And, or sometimes I actually have to go to the bathroom, of course. But this time I didn't. And I was just chilling there. I was in there for probably like 35, 45 seconds, hit the vape, walked out, and then I was like, ah, fuck, I'll go outside. I don't like vaping in the actual comedy club whenever people are there because it's like we're open and I'm telling people not to vape and then I'm vaping. I know I'm a hypocrite, but I try to hide it, you know what I'm saying? So, walk outside to vape, look to my right, and I see there's a girl sitting on, like, in front of the comedy club. There's two big square plots for like flower beds and like centered by concrete slabs. And the concrete slabs are just big enough for you to sit on during the summer, if it's warm outside, of course. So she was on the one not directly in front of the comedy club, but like a little over. And she was smoking. I was vaping. And I didn't pay her any attention because usually whenever I'm in this mode of stepping outside, the only thing I have in my head is like, man, how much longer is the show gonna be, or is there gonna be like a time bomb that goes off that someone's gonna pop up and just start yelling, or who knows what. So I was just debriefing and I was vaping. I stopped vaping and then I walked to go to the main door, enter back into the comedy club. On my way there, I could just see in my peripheral she's doing this like towards me, and I look over and she was just mouthing something, and didn't I didn't hear her because she wasn't saying anything. I figured out she was literally just mouthing something, but I she was looking at me, she was like, and I was like, what? And I kept doing that. I was like, what are you saying? I can't hear you. And then eventually I took the bait and I walked over and I was like, are you even talking? And I was like, oh, you're the girl from the front. Oh shit. And it was the girl from the front row. And then as soon as I walked up, she said, yeah, that's what I thought. And I was like, yo, what are you talking about? And then she started the conversation about the show, like about one of the jokes that she had. And I was like, okay. Started talking to her. She was like, sit down. Why are you standing? And I was like, well, I was about to go in. And she was like, well, just stay for like 10 seconds. And I was like, ah, okay, fine. Because realistically, I didn't want to go back in the showroom. There was about 40 minutes left, and it was the exact same thing that she did for the first 20 minutes, just on repeat because it's a majority crowd work. So I was like, all right, I'll give it a few more seconds of debriefing. So I sat down. First mistake because, well, I don't want to say mistake, but that's where I fucked up. Because as soon as I sat down, I guess she realized, oh, he's also on go. And I didn't realize the connection she was trying to make. And as I sat down, I peep in my peripheral Garrett in the box office. Shout out Garrett, he's a real one. But I peep him just in the box office, and I don't really acknowledge any of the, like, I don't give him a look or anything. I'm just looking at this girl, and I'm like, what the fuck does she want? Because she started it with mouthing something that was probably gibberish, and then she said, that's what I thought. So I'm trying to see what kind of vibe she's even on. I might have told her to stop talking or something, and she might be mad. Then, as I sit down and we're talking, we continue to talk about the crowd work joke that she did after she talked to her. And then this is all filler conversation because then I realize mid conversation she just looks at me and then she leans in and she fucking starts making out with me. And keep in mind, this is a while ago. I didn't push her away and I wasn't like, yo, what are you doing? I also proceeded to kiss her. And this is where it gets fucking crazy because I swear I hear a car just pull up behind us, or like a truck, just pull up right behind us, because we're sitting on the flower bed, and then probably 5 feet away is the road. So I hear the car pull up. We don't stop, and then I hear the door shut. Not really shut, more of a slam. And I hear, "Babe, what are you doing?" My heart kind of, I was like, "Yo!" I was like, "Oh shit, man!" And then keep in mind, at this point, I turned around, she looked at him as more of like a, yeah, fuck you, bitch. And I was like, oh, this is crazy. I don't know what complex you two have, but I can't be in this situation. I stood up to go like, hey, man, look, I didn't know she had a boyfriend. I apologize, dog. Swear he says to me, no, it's cool, man. You're a male. We like to procreate. And he daps me up. I swear to God. Says that, daps me up, and I was like, "Hey, at least you're cool about it." And I looked over first of all towards the comedy club door. Garrett's out smoking, and I was like, "Oh, he's a real one." He was peeping the whole situation, and he stepped out just in case. So shout out to Garrett for that. But I stepped away to be like, "Yo," and I took a look back at her, and she was just like, kind of pressed, but more pressed that he pulled up and interrupted. And I was like, "This bitch is wild. What the fuck?" And that also kind of leads to my years of being like, yeah, fuck a relationship. I don't trust any of that. But they left together. I went back to Garrett and was like, that shit was crazy. And he was like, I know, I stepped out just in case. Went back into the showroom as if nothing happened. I haven't seen her since. I was like, I don't know what all that was about, but the way he reacted got me nervous to be like, damn, that poor guy. So that was a lot of rambling. And next, I'm gonna switch to something that I also don't know much about, but your boy does have an opinion on it because it's benched opinions. I'm talking about the four nations, the NHL, specifically the USA versus Canada game. Because I didn't realize that the one on, I think it was like February 15th. I didn't know that that game, the fights that went viral and all that stuff, them booing, the crowd booing the anthem. I didn't know it got as much PR as it did to where people all over actually cared about the championship game. Because usually I feel like hockey kind of goes by, like, it'll go viral on a certain level because it's just like, of course, it's a championship game for a professional sport, but only a certain amount of people will actually show interest. So, like, more than like a few days worth. Well, after that game, I started to see posts just like naturally of like people reposting the fights or talking about the scores or who's gonna win next. I was at Cheddar's last night with it was me, Brandon, Peyton, and his girl. We are all sitting there. Look to our left, figure out that oh shit, there's the Four Nations game just starting, USA versus Canada. I figured out why I can't watch hockey because it might be intense back and forths, but that's all it is a bunch of back and forths. It was so boring. The entire time we were there eating, nobody scored a point. Well, actually, I take that back. I went outside of my car to switch my pod and came back, and I was like, oh shit, Canada actually scored a point. Look at that. But it was like, by the time we left, it was like, I think 1-1. And I was like, okay, that was very anticlimactic. We didn't see a fight while we were sitting there and nothing. But I got home and I was like, let me figure out who won. You know what I'm saying? Looked at the score. It was still going. It was tied 2-2. And then I guess they had to get the third point. Canada did, and they won. But I saw so many posts just on social media or like people talking about it is in person. I was like, this is wild. I did not know it built up that much just viral PR and just people talking about it. So good for the NHL. But I will say one probably not popular opinion. I'm not mad that Canada won. I don't have ties to hockey, but neither does Kendrick fans. I'm sure if USA beat Canada, they would have found some sort of way to spin that to be like, fuck Drake. They like play like not like us over the speakers. There would have been something. They already booed the national anthem. You know what I'm saying? So they're looking for some get back. So I was not salty about the final score of the game. And I'm going to end the podcast like I always do with shout out to a real one. This is the first one that I actually have never met the person face to face, which is wild. And hopefully one day I'll get to, because that'll be lit. But it's Elijah. This man, his Instagram is 𝙎𝙊𝘾𝙄𝘼𝙇𝙎. Shout out to this man Elijah, because he is such a real one, bro. Hopefully you'll watch this and get to hear this, but he is probably, not probably, he is the realest person we have in CTZ alone. Like, I can't pick favorites because, like, I own CTZ, but if I was going to, he would be my favorite 1000%. He's stuck. We've both been through the mud at this point. He's seen CTZ at some super lows, and I've seen him at some lows as well. And we both stuck together. We both stuck through. Plus, the content he makes, it's so digestible. It's fun to watch. The games he plays, they're good, like actually good games to make content on. He's not just forcing content nonstop. The way he's doing it, I kind of took some sort of advice from to make shorter videos. He's a good content creator. He's fantastic at it. Hopefully he'll get the boost of, like, I don't know if it's like some TikTok stride or some sort of like bump that content creators really need to get like that next path, I guess. But I'm really hoping he gets that next bump because he is for sure putting the work in and he deserves it 100%. So shout out to that man, Elijah. And that is it for episode 8. I will see you in the next one.